Dharma, Matra Dharma, Pitra Dharma, Raja Dharma, Guru Dharma, Rajya Dharma, Rashtra Dharma.
And there are many more dharmas we hear on a daily basis. Above all, a politician even went on to declare a Ganda Dharam. And another politician even speaks of eradicating Sanatana Dharma.
சனாதனம் என்பதை எதிர்ப்பதை விட ஒழிப்பதே நாம் செய்ய வேண்டிய முதல் காரியமாகும்.
Instead of opposing, eradicating that which is Sanatana is the first task we should undertake.
As Hindus, we hear, talk, live, and breathe Dharma every moment. And they keep bombing it. However, do we know what Dharma actually means? It is said, Dharma means duty or responsibility. Is it true? It is said, Dharma means righteousness or virtuousness. Is it true? It is said, Dharma means religion, referring to Hindu religion. Is it true? It is said, Dharma means laws. Is it true? Indeed, none of them is directly true. Indeed, Dharma literally translates to uphold self, or upholding self. The popular definition of Dharma says, Dharma is a combination of dru and ma, where dru means to hold or support, and ma is the suffix that turns a verb or root word into a noun that denotes an action, or the one who performs an action. The suffix can also be used to describe something that embodies, or has a particular quality or function, based on which Dharma popularly means that which is held or upheld. However, the actual definition of Dharma and its translation are different. Dharma is derived from the combination of root word, dru, and the word aham. According to the Sanskrit grammatical rules, when dru is combined with aham, the resulting word is draham. However, over time, it may have come to be pronounced as Dharma. Alternatively, the combination of dru and ahem can also lead to Dharma, which over time may have come to be pronounced as Dharma. In any way, dru means to hold or support, and means self or ego, based on which Dharma or Dharaham or Dharmam means to uphold the self or upholding self. In essence, Dharma has everything to do with aham, which is an individual's self or ego. Self, or ayam, is associated with the ahamkara tattva. Ahamkara tattva is the highest tattva in the physical realm. Tattva jnana or vigyan is a fundamental aspect of Sankhya, which in itself is a science of consciousness. Thus, Dharma literally means to uphold the self, or upholding self. While Dharma is essentially just this, over time, it has also come to be known by other meanings. That is, Dharma may mean duty or responsibility, simply because upholding self is the duty and responsibility of every being. Dharma may mean righteousness or virtuousness, simply because upholding self is a righteous act. In another sense, being righteous or virtuous is as good as upholding self. Dharma may vaguely mean religion or culture, because upholding self should essentially be the religion or culture of every being and every society. Moreover, Dharma may also vaguely mean law, because upholding self is the law of the universe, which every being is bound to, and is required to follow. While these other meanings are popular, they necessarily do not directly represent the actual meaning of Dharma, but are indirect references. Further, self is a projection of an individual soul in the physical realm. An individual soul is a part or projection of the Paramatma, but is confined by its own selfish desires. Paramatma literally means the Supreme Soul or the Universal Soul. Because Paramatma or Supreme Soul is present in every being, it also becomes the duty and responsibility of every being to uphold the Eternal Soul, represented as Eternal Self, in the physical realm. Upholding the Eternal Self is referred to as Sanatana Dharma. Indeed, Sanatana Dharma literally translates to upholding Eternal Self. In a sense, upholding self is as good as upholding the Eternal Self. Therefore, both Dharma and Sanatana Dharma can be considered one and the same. However, it is in the nature of the self or ego to push an individual being toward passion, selfishness, and self-identity. Yet the universe demands compassion for all beings, equality among them, in other words, unity in diversity. Only those who can overcome their selfish tendencies can be considered as truly following Dharma and Sanatana Dharma. Those who are attached to selfish tendencies are truly in the path of adharma. So, what is Sanatana Dharma? And is Hinduism same as Sanatana Dharma? As mentioned earlier, Sanatana Dharma literally means upholding Eternal Self. Eternal Self is the Paramatma, or the Supreme Soul, from which every Atma, or soul, emanates. Therefore, it becomes the duty and responsibility of every being, or the Self, to uphold the Eternal Self. Based on this understanding, our ancient rishis imparted a set of philosophical teachings meant to guide the beings and the societies to live in harmony with the universe and fulfill their duties in various aspects of life. These set of philosophical teachings, which are based on the concept of upholding the Eternal Self, is also generally referred to as Sanatana Dharma. Over time, these philosophical teachings were adopted as the culture of ancient India, and the culture that emerged has also been referred to as Sanatana Dharma. The understanding and philosophical teachings of Sanatana Dharma have evolved over time, shaped by the understanding of universe as derived from Sankhya, which in itself is a science of consciousness, derived from the study of nature. These philosophical teachings include the laws of universe that govern every aspect of the universe, from the microcosm to the macrocosm, encompassing the natural elements, planets, stars, humans, animals, and everything. These laws must be upheld by every being, and society as a duty and responsibility. It is essential to follow these laws in order to maintain balance in nature. Any failure to comply can lead to destruction and devastation. Sanatana Dharma has traditionally been divided into various sampradayas, that is, the spiritual traditions, or the schools of thought. These sampradayas represent different interpretations, practices, and philosophical systems within the broader framework of Sanatana Dharma. The divisions arose over time, influenced by different regional, philosophical, and sectarian developments. Some of the major sampradayas within Sanatana Dharma include Shaivism, Vaishnavism, Shaktism, Smarthism, Advaita Vedanta, and Vaita Vedanta, among many others. Even external religions are considered sampradayas, regardless of whether they reciprocate or not. It is for this reasons that Sanatana Dharma does not reject peaceful coexistence with other external religions. Effectively, each sampradaya within Sanatana Dharma can be considered a religion in its own right. The phrase Ekam Sat Viprabahuda Vadanti, translated as truth is one, but the wise speak of it in many ways, encapsulates the core idea of pluralism in Sanatana Dharma. This foundational principle explains why various sampradayas evolved within Sanatana Dharma. While there is a singular, ultimate reality, different spiritual traditions articulate it in diverse ways based on their individual perspectives, cultural contexts, and spiritual experiences. While Sanatana Dharma and Sampradaya are ancient terms, Hinduism evolved over time as a term used by foreign influences to describe the culture of the people living from the Sindhu River to the Indian Ocean. Therefore, in terms of culture, Sanatana Dharma and Hinduism are essentially one and the same, because both represent the same spiritual and cultural continuity that has shaped the way of life in India for several millennia. The philosophical teachings of Sanatana Dharma are the bedrock upon which Indian culture, which is referred to as Hindu culture, has flourished, influencing art, literature, social structure, and spiritual practices across generations. However, in terms of usage, Sanatana Dharma is indeed an implicit term, referring to the eternal underlying principles of life, spirituality, and ethics. Hinduism, on the other hand, is a more explicit, externally coined term used to describe the cultural and religious practices. In lieu of this, we may consider the scientific aspects of the ancient culture as part of Sanatana Dharma, while the artistic aspects, such as the personification of natural elements, can be considered part of Hinduism, reflecting the cultural expressions derived from Sanatana Dharma. In the broader scope of Sanatana Dharma and Sankhya, many scientific principles, such as consciousness, astronomy, mathematics, Ayurveda, and the understanding of nature, have been integrated into the cultural and spiritual practices of ancient India. Therefore, referring to the scientific aspects of the culture as part of Sanatana Dharma makes sense, especially when we consider how deeply interconnected spirituality and scientific knowledge were in ancient Indian traditions. Further, Hinduism, as it is understood today, often emphasizes the cultural, artistic, and ritualistic expressions that have evolved from the spiritual foundation of Sanatana Dharma. Artistic practices, such as the personification of natural elements through deities, sculptures, and rituals, are key features of Hinduism and serve as more visible cultural manifestation. In essence, we may say that if Sanatana Dharma is the science of nature, then Hinduism is the art of science. What is Dharma and Adharma? As discussed, Dharma essentially means upholding one's self or ego, whereas Adharma, in a simple sense, is the opposite of Dharma. In a relative context, Adharma can be considered as a lesser Dharma. Dharma has everything to do with ahamkara or ego, which is the highest tattva in the physical realm, whereas Adharma mostly arises from durahamkara or false ego. Dharma elevates the soul, whereas Adharma degrades the soul. Dharma ascends one to the higher worlds, whereas Adharma descends one to lower worlds. Dharma refers to the moral law, righteousness, or the path of virtue. It signifies the ethical and spiritual duties and responsibilities that an individual must follow in life to live harmoniously with the universe. Whereas Adharma represents unrighteousness, immorality, or actions that go against the natural order. It involves actions that are unethical, unjust, or harmful to oneself or others. Dharma upholds the natural order of the universe and ensures harmony in all aspects of life. It governs not only human behavior but also the natural and cosmic laws that maintain balance in the world. Whereas adharma disrupts the balance of the universe and creates disorder. When adharma prevails, it leads to chaos, suffering, and destruction. Dharma encourages individuals to act with integrity, compassion, fairness, and respect for all beings. It is about making choices that align with the greater good, duty, and righteousness. Whereas adharma leads to actions that are selfish, harmful, unjust, or unethical. It promotes greed, cruelty, dishonesty, and other negative qualities that harm individuals and society. Following Dharma brings harmony, peace, and positive karma, eventually leading one towards liberation or moksha. Whereas following adharma results in negative consequences, disharmony, suffering, and the accumulation of bad karma, which may delay spiritual progress. A typical example of adharma is racism or casteism. In today's world, it is crucial to call out adharma in the form of racism or casteism, which is purportedly referred to as jati in Hinduism. Dharma encourages individuals to treat all beings with kindness, understanding, and equality, regardless of race, ethnicity, or background. Adharma, on the other hand, promotes division, discrimination, and prejudice, which disrupts the natural order of harmony and unity in society. In the context of Hinduism, Macaulays propagate jati or so-called caste system as an inherent evil in Hinduism. However, this equivalence can at best be seen as a fallacy and fraudulent propaganda promoted by the malicious actors who seek to denigrate Hinduism. Hinduism at its core just teaches the distinction between Dharma and Adharma. Just because some individuals choose the path of Adharma, it does not mean that Sanatana Dharma or Hinduism promotes it. Anyone who tries to portray this is either ignorant or malicious. Jati in itself is simply a classification based on occupation or profession, serving as a practical necessity. It is required to identify a person by his profession or occupation. For example, Vaidya means doctor, Acharya means teacher, Beta means butler, and so on. Thus, jati was never intended to be based on birth, but based on occupation or profession. However, possessing a false ego about one's caste, or jati, or occupation, or profession, or race, or religion is indeed an adharma, which degrades the self. Therefore, anyone who possesses a superiority complex about his or her jati, or so-called caste, is indeed being adharmic. Finally, Gandhadaram is an oxymoron. The use of the phrase Gandhadaram, which means filthy dharma or filthy religion, is an oxymoron. It is essentially the same as saying evil God. The phrase evil God is an oxymoron because it combines two contradictory ideas. God, typically understood as a symbol of ultimate goodness and benevolence, and evil, which represents moral corruption or malevolence. In most religious traditions, God is seen as supremely good, making the concept of an evil God logically inconsistent. Similarly, the phrase Gandhadarama, which roughly translates to filthy or impure or dirty religion, in the context the politician used it, can be considered an oxymoron. The word dharam generally refers to righteousness, moral law, where it represents purity, ethical conduct, and spiritual truth. The term Gandha typically means something filthy, impure, dirty, or corrupted. Therefore, combining these two words creates a contradiction, making it an oxymoron. But then, who cares? These elected politicians, who are on a mission to eradicate Sanatana Dharma, have been given all the rights to distort and malign the definitions and symbols of Hinduism.